With all this talk lately about how graphics cards are becoming so expensive and unattainable for the masses, makes it seem like PC gaming in general is headed towards the direction of unaffordability. However, if you actually take a few steps back and evaluate the market as a whole with prices of all different components taken into consideration and what people are actually playing, then I'd say it's actually a fantastic time to become a PC gamer. Let's discuss that in this video. Hey, if you enjoy content like this, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and smash that bell so you never miss another video. Hey, what is going on guys? Danny here, welcome back to the channel and I hope you all been doing well. I wanted to make this video because lately there's been a lot of discussion in the PC hardware space, especially surrounding new generation graphics cards, and most of it unfortunately hasn't been good. I've definitely contributed to that discussion. I mean, you can go ahead and take a look at my previous uploads where I've expressed my displeasure with Nvidia's new releases. One of the major hot topics has been the glaring pricing issues of these new graphics cards. The prices have just been on a steep uptrend and have just become way too expensive relative to previous generations, significantly beyond what you'd consider to be in line with the inflation rate. Any newcomer to this market, or even someone perhaps looking at making some upgrades, might actually end up intimidated or deterred from the PC gaming space because they'll see headlines of how we're getting new graphics cards at obscenely high prices with no groundbreaking performance uplifts unless you're willing to shell out $1,600 plus. Furthermore, when you see hardware reviewers testing out recently released modern AAA titles with new tech bringing even the most expensive graphics cards to their knees, it can create this sort of false obsolescence mindset with the consumer that their old hardware or lower end hardware just isn't good enough, which absolutely is not true. A lot of these new games have new tech built into them, path traced lighting and shadows, which are extremely demanding. Along with that, they're using uber high textures, taxing the VRAM buffers of even high-end GPUs, resulting in low performance figures. People see this kind of stuff and they'll go, oh wow, this person is using a $600 CPU with a $800 GPU and they're getting performance this low. I guess I'll just stay away from PC gaming because I can't afford the hardware they're testing with. I've seen the comments on my videos and various other places. A lot of people out there are saying they'll just game on a console or look at a different hobby altogether, but I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be like that. Let's forget about PC hardware for a moment. I want to show you guys this screenshot I took from the Steam Charts website. This is a website that shows the current player count of games on Steam, and mind you, I took this screenshot a bit before midnight Eastern Standard Time, so the player counts aren't as high as where they usually are during the afternoon or early evening. But if you take a look at the top 20 games that have the highest player count, you'll see that there aren't really any games on that list which are considered to be demanding. Modern Warfare 2 2022 or Warzone 2 came out in the last quarter of 2022, so it's one of the newer titles on this list, and it'll run fine on a lot of hardware that is out there, but we'll get more into that in just a moment. Now let's head on over to twitch.tv's browse section, sorted by the highest viewer count, and take a look at some of the video games that are available on PC. What you will notice is that a lot of these games that are still dominating the top spots aren't even modern games or demanding games. GTA 5 is one of the most viewed titles, and this is a game from 2013, a decade ago. Same goes for League of Legends, CSGO, Minecraft, and more. These games will work just fine and offer the user excellent performance on lower end and previous generation hardware. The point here is that even though we reviewers are using modern AAA titles to demonstrate the strengths and weaknesses of these new CPUs and GPUs, that doesn't necessarily mean those games tested are reflective of what's popular and what PC gamers are actually playing. Last month, I made a video where I did a 40 game mega benchmark head-to-head showdown of my RTX 4090 and RTX 3090. You'll notice that 28 of those games tested, so that's more than half, are modern single-player titles. I tested them because some of them support ray tracing and they have really high level textures plus more graphical fidelity features, so it allows us to attain information on how this hardware and architecture performs versus the previous generation. When these games come out, they often generate a lot of discussion because it's new and everyone wants to see how this new piece of software can push their hardware. But if I'm to be frank, once they have gotten their fulfillment out of it, then that's it. Listen, as cool as Cyberpunk 2077 looks, I really have no desire to go back and replay it. If you see me on Steam and it says I'm playing Cyberpunk 2077 now, it's probably because I'm testing hardware. But I'm always down to go back and play some matches in CSGO or mess around in a server on Minecraft, because those types of games offer much better replayability There you have the multiplayer component there, hence you see them dominating the top spots in Steam charts or on Twitch views. What's also not reflective of what most PC gamers are doing is playing with maxed or ultra settings. Sure, I can see someone arguing that they want to be able to take full advantage of the hardware they have paid for, especially if you've bought a high-end expensive GPU like a 4090 to enjoy the eye candy, but most gamers aren't in that position, so therefore they're going to be turning down or using a mixture of settings to optimize performance. I want to bring this up because there's been so much talk about how 8GB or 10GB of VRAM isn't enough these days. Now, for a new graphics card that has been released in late 2022 or released in 2023 and is struggling due to VRAM issues, then yeah, I can see why people are annoyed by this. However, if you're on an older piece of hardware and you're crying about how The Last of Us on PC is running poorly, then turn your freaking settings down. Even on my OLED rig, which has an RTX 4090, I still turn down some settings and use a mixture between medium, high, and ultra, because I often find there are settings out there that have a large impact to your performance, but visually, it's not that much better than just high or medium. Along with that, it also depends on the types of games I'm playing. Multiplayer games like COD or CSGO, I'm playing everything at low. I don't care, FPS is the top priority there. This is why when you look at hardware reviews, many reviewers, I guess to save time or for simplicity's sake, just use an ultra or very high preset in the game and then call it a day. So you run into these sort of situations where they're showing you abysmal performance results from the graphics card, but the quick and easy solution is to go from ultra to high and the problem goes away. Along with that, resolution is just as important to take into account. Over on the Steam hardware survey, the most dominant resolution is 1080p at 64%, followed by 1440p at 21%, and 4K sitting at a little less than 2%, which is funny because with the way Nvidia and AMD talk about 4K along with hardware reviewers, you would think the adoption of 4K would have been a lot higher by now, but in reality, that's not the case as most PC gamers are satisfied with the visuals offered by 1080p and would opt for higher frame rates. With all of that said, and the reason why I wanted to discuss this is because in 2023, you can now build a very capable gaming PC that I'd say would be in the reach for a lot of PC gamers in the market. It's an absolutely fantastic time to get into the PC gaming world because now you have so many options available to you on the market that will easily fulfill the needs for like 90% of gamers out there without breaking the bank. So what I wanted to do next was go over a PC build that I made over on PC Part Picker's website that I'm certain will easily allow anyone who's interested in getting into PC gaming. To start off, I wanted to go over my choice for the CPU. Now, this was actually a pretty difficult choice to make because on the CPU market, there are actually so many great options available, not just in the high-end segments, but in all segments. I did really like Intel's i5-13400F, considering it's basically a 12600KF, but ultimately I decided to go for AMD's Ryzen 5 5600. Even though this is a last generation processor, it's still a very capable 6-core CPU that will work great with all the games that I've mentioned and with the GPU I've chosen. And should the user decide to upgrade to a faster GPU down the road and want a faster CPU to pair with it, they can easily drop in a 5800X3D as an upgrade. Right now over on Amazon, you can pick the CPU up for $141, which I think is an excellent value. Now, I did also include a CPU cooler in this build. If you are tight on cash, you can skip this because the Ryzen 5 5600 does come bundled with AMD's Stealth cooler, which will do the job, but I've used that cooler before and it's struggled even with the Ryzen 5 3600 and it'll be noisy. So for just 20 bucks, this Thermalright single tower cooler will be a huge improvement in both thermals and acoustics. For the motherboard, I've selected ASRock's B550M Riptide. It's nothing crazy, but again, for the CPU of our choice, it'll be plenty, and it's still got all the essential features you'll need. It's got a PCIe 4.0 slot, 2 M.2 slot, decent amount of USB, and supports memory overclocking. And like I said, should the user need to upgrade to something like a 5800X3D, it'll be more than enough to handle that upgrade as well, and it'll be as simple as updating the BIOS and dropping it in. For $100, it's a great choice. Moving on, and for our RAM, we've got a 16GB kit from G.Skill. This kit is rated to run at 3600 mega transfers with a CAS latency rating of 16, so our out-of-box configuration is pretty close to that sweet spot for Zen 3. Now, you can always tune your RAM yourself if you're willing to take the time to learn, but for those who just want a good set it and forget it solution, this kit will work great, and for $51, it's really cheap. Speaking of cheap, it's crazy to see just how much prices have plummeted for SSDs over these past few months. It wasn't that long ago actually where 1TB SSDs were over $100, and now you can get them for well below that. This 1TB SSD from Crucial's P5 Plus series is no exception. It's Gen 4, offering blazing fast sequential read and write speeds, comes with a DRAM cache. It should make your system run very snappy. Now we move on to what I consider the most important part of this build, where most of our budget went to, the graphics card. As mentioned in the start of the video, the new generation options in my opinion are not worth it. They're just way too expensive for what most people even need these days. Therefore, I decided to go with something from the previous generation, and if you look on the market, you'll find plenty of great options available to fit your needs at a sensible price. I recently made a video discussing how Intel's Arc GPUs are now viable options for the mainstream gamers, but because I wanted to go with something I could recommend without having to, put in a disclaimer that you'll need to be aware of some troubleshooting, I decided to go with AMD. AMD has a lot of great value options available now from their previous Gen 6000 series, since they've dropped down the prices on a lot of those models. With that said, the graphics card that I chose for this build is AMD's RX 6700 non-XT. This is a GPU that I think some of you may not have even known existed. AMD had quietly released this card, or rather it was their board partners. This GPU is a slightly cut down RX 6700 XT. It's got 36 compute units as opposed to 40. It has 10 gigabytes of VRAM and a 160-bit bus. There aren't a lot of reviews out there for this GPU, but a few outlets have done some tests. Tom's Hardware did a review of the Sapphire model, which is the same one I've chosen for this build, and overall it's comparable to an RTX 3060 Ti. The reason why I decided to go for this GPU is because of its price point. At $299, I think it offers really good bang for the buck. It's only about $20 more than what RX 6650 XTs go for, but does offer considerably better performance, along with having 2 more gigabytes of VRAM. Also, compared to Nvidia, the price is just way better. Nvidia's products tend to hold their value better than AMD stuff because of their mindshare dominance, so despite being over 2 years old, 3060 Ti's aren't that much lower than MSRP if you're looking for new, that is. Sure, you can probably find something much cheaper on the used market, but the used market isn't the answer for everyone. But new 3060 Ti prices, in my opinion, are just terrible. Therefore, given the performance, specs, and price, going with the RX 6700 was the clear choice. Given the selection of games that most people are playing, this GPU will have absolutely no problem delivering high frame rates in those games, and will also easily be able to handle those AAA games at 1080p, and will be very capable at even 1440p too. Just don't go all crazy with settings, take 3 to 5 minutes tweaking some settings, and trust me, you'll have a wonderful experience with this card. As for the case, this can be really anything you want as long as it's able to accommodate cooling, airflow, and has a decent amount of space to work in. Anything's a viable option. The CC560 from Deepcool is a good option. You get 4 120mm fans with RGB, so lots of airflow, a lot of space inside, and a tempered glass side panel to show off all your parts. As for the power supply, didn't really need anything fancy here either, just something with a decent efficiency rating from a reputable brand. Therefore, I've gone with Corsair's CX750M, which is probably a bit overkill for this build, but this will give the user some headroom should they upgrade to a faster CPU and GPU down the road. It's also semi-modular, so it should also help them out with cable management. For 90 bucks, it's a pretty good choice. Alright, so since we've gone through the list of parts, our grand total before taxes comes up to $839. For a build that will be able to handle modern gaming with modest settings at 1080p and 1440p, and delivering great frame rates, high refresh gaming in the titles we saw from places like Steam charts, this is an excellent price, and one that is definitely within reach for a lot of consumers out there. Obviously, depending on your region, pricing will vary, but this is a sensible build that will fulfill the needs for most people. If you think about it in the grand scheme of things, PC gaming has actually become quite a bit cheaper. It's just that because the prices on new graphics cards coming out has become so ludicrous, it falsely alludes to PC gaming in general becoming too expensive. However, a build like this with the performance that's being offered from the Ryzen 5 5600 and an RX 6700 would have easily costed you double, if not more, like 3 or 4 years ago. I don't think enough people are realizing just how incredible it is that we're able to build PCs as powerful as this for less than $900. Sure, we're not quite at that console killer level yet, but if you actually think about this, a system like this in the long run will probably be even cheaper than what you'll end up paying for if you had gone with a PS5 or Xbox Series X. Now, I know some of you guys might be looking at this build and going, well, that's great and all, but what if I want something that isn't on a dead-end platform, so I can upgrade like 4 years down the road? Kind of like how a Ryzen 5 1600 owner might upgrade to a 5800X 3D like 5 years later. Well, as an alternative, you can go for the Ryzen 5 7600 on the AM5 platform, but the price does jump up quite a bit, around $230. However, the benefits of this build are that the CPU is more powerful, you get new platform features, and you've got a good upgrade path if AMD decides to keep supporting B650 boards until 2025. But I don't generally recommend parts on future-proofing or promises because you just never know, so keep that in mind. This was a piece of content I definitely wanted to put out there and make for you guys because it's just crazy to see how at a first glance PC gaming looks so unfeasible. People see headlines how mainstream gaming GPUs cost $600 plus and your old system or last gen card is obsolete because some new unoptimized trash that everyone will forget about in a couple months uses so much VRAM. PC gaming is not expensive. It's actually very affordable, more than ever. You just have to take some time to do some research, figure out what it is you want to do with your system. Don't worry about all the new stuff coming out, especially if you're someone who's enjoying the top games being played on Steam charts, then it's all irrelevant. Anyways, that'll do it for this one. Hoping you guys got some valuable information out of it. If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.